shout out anything they remember? Jason?
He died young, right?
He what?
I think he died young.
He did die young. He was like in his 50s. Yeah. Anybody else have any interesting things they remember?
It's the plague and disease.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
The bubonic plague?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was during the 16th century when he was around. They actually had to close the Globe Theater because of, I think it was like 1609 or somewhere in there, where they had to close the Globe Theater because of the outbreak of bubonic plague. So, it's pretty interesting. What you got?
Romeo and Juliet, whenever he killed Tybalt.
He what?
Whenever he killed Tybalt.
Oh, yeah. That's good. If y'all have ever heard, I don't know, with Romeo and Juliet, did y'all ever talk about the Globe Theater?
Not much.
No? Okay, well this was Shakespeare's Globe Theater that he actually owned part of it. So we're gonna take actually a tour of it. So if y'all wanna get your Chromebooks out, and I think Ms. Ryder put a link to the website on your Google Classroom. For you, I would like y'all to take C notes. Are y'all aware of how that works? C notes.
Yes,
I do have an example. If y'all wanna, here I'll go ahead to the examples. I have one up there where you basically write the main ideas on the left hand side, and then or the questions, and you write what's related to on the right hand side, or you can write the essential question at the top. It's up to you. But what I want y'all to do is I want y'all to answer the 2 essential questions through your summary. I want y'all to have a summary at the bottom. So those are the essential questions. Who is Shakespeare and what were his contributions to theater? And then how is Roman culture used in Julius Caesar? How is it similar to Shakespeare's time?
What's our title?
You could do Introduction to Shakespeare if you like. Okay, so this is just explaining what I'm doing with y'all today. I want y'all to be able, after this presentation, to explain to me Shakespeare's life orally and how he made an impact on theater. I want you, what we'll be doing also is we'll be learning some vocabulary that's associated with his plays, and in particular Julius Caesar. So I want y'all to do a Kahoot first, and it's going to be kind of a review somewhat, and you'll have some new terms. Don't worry about it. Just take the Kahoot, and then we're going to learn the vocabulary, and I'm going to have you take the Kahoot again to see that y'all mastered it. And then y'all are going to be taking C notes on Shakespeare's background and Roman culture and background for Julius Caesar. And I'll also have y'all working with a partner today. So that's why y'all are in seats of 2. And you're going to be basically comparing and contrasting in your notes also how Rome is similar to today, like politics-wise, socially, culturally. And I'm going to have y'all do kind of a chart, like similarities and differences. And that says a brief reference to another work of art or event in history. If y'all had plays before, that's usually a big thing to do. It's usually a lot of allusions to Greek mythology and Roman culture within Shakespeare. Sort of highlighter. Okay, so the first vocab word we have is aside. We went over that in the Kahoot. It's basically a comment made by a character. It does reveal the private thoughts of the character actually saying the comments, but it is only heard by the audience. It's not heard by any other characters. All right, allusion. That is a casual reference in literature to a person, place, our events, or another passage of literature. A lot of allusions usually are from, like Greek mythology, like, Zeus, like y'all have said, and then another, like a good example of that, do y'all know the song Love Story by Taylor Swift?
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's a direct allusion to Romeo and Juliet. And basically it's an allusion because it's talking about two lovers who are prohibited from seeing each other. And in the line, I'm standing there on a balcony in summer air. It's an allusion to the event where, the famous event where Juliet is on the balcony and she's like, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? If y'all remember
so they
that.
talk that way.
Yeah, they do. Shakespearean language is crazy. He came up with many words that are like a part of the English language now. So you're, just get out a blank sheet of paper, write this down. Y'all to write 2 to 3 sentences about, you can either do the nobility, the rich people, or you can do the poor people I talked about in the Globe Theater, how their experience would be different going to the theater. And I talked about like the poor people had to pay a penny to just stand on the floor. You can talk about how that would be a hard thing, so you have to look up at the stage. You can also talk about how the nobility got to sit up in the better galleries, which is what I showed you on the Globe Theater. They had the galleries where they'd sit in comfort and watch, and they would be above the poor people. So y'all talk about, if you were that person, if you were the nobility or the poor, how your experience would be. Y'all write 2 to 3 sentences about that.
So you write like if you were a poor person?
If you were a poor person or if you're a rich person, from their perspective. So if you were walking in the Globe Theater, imagine walking in as a poor person, like how you would see the Globe Theater, how it would be different from your, life. They lived a pretty simplistic life, and they had to basically scrounge around usually for food and for money. And then the nobility, they would pay just a small amount of money to get higher up on the, totem pole, kind of just to see the play. So just talk about how it would be different.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah.
I'm sure my-
Well, you're by yourself, so.
What? I put it on there, I only want to do it, so I felt like I love the scenery and like my walking.
You like the scenery?
Yeah.
What do you remember from the Globe that would be
Oh, that trap door.
the trap door?
But like, being that, I feel like I'm able to I can watch the show, I'm moving and you feel comfortable.
Yeah. All right. Do you like red, green, or blue? You like green?
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to share?
I do. I do. I'm gonna share.
Okay. Go ahead.
I said, if I were a poor person, I would feel a little less important to other people. Walking into the Globe Theater knowing I have to sit somewhere I can't see is completely unfair. Everyone should be treated equally, rich or poor, because we are all the same human beings that God created.
That is really good. I like how you added that we were all equal, and that we were all created by God. Do you want green, blue, or red?
Like, I feel like they have, did they have an education at the school?
They did.
I feel like they was doing school. And it's like, I was talking to them, they'll find out, like, say that you wanted to be like this. Like, you see them getting them, you're like, oh, I want to do that. I think they should try to do that.
Right. And a lot of them didn't have access to education. So, what we're talking about, William Shakespeare, he had education, and also through theater, he also talked about y'all know what inequality means? Somebody want to tell me what inequality means? You're basically unequal, like you're not, so the nobility was up here and the poor was down here, there's no in between. So basically the poor they weren't given the opportunities the rich were. So that goes to show you, like, William Shakespeare, he would talk about those things. And that was very, it was a crazy thing back there to even touch on that kind of thing. All right, so this is gonna be about basically Shakespeare's way of writing. So he uses metaphors. If y'all wanna shout out, what is a metaphor? Do y'all remember what a metaphor is?
Comparison, not using like our
Okay. If y'all wanna talk to your neighbor real quick and come up with some examples.
She is a tree.
Hmm?
And she is a tree, right?
She is a tree, yeah, that's not using like her as. Basically, have y'all read The Hunger Games? Y'all know who Katniss is? So Katniss is called Girl on Fire. That's a metaphor because they're likening or they're comparing her to fire. So I would just write down comparing without using like or as, like I have it highlighted up there. Character known as a cobbler, and there's a play on words when he says he's a mender of soles. So a cobbler fixes shoes. A sole is on your feet, and then you also have an internal soul. If you're a Christian, you believe that you have a soul, that soul's gonna go somewhere after you die. So he's a mender of souls and souls. No, you're fine. It's harder to come up with those. Does anybody have a good example of a metaphor?
I tried. I said, the moon is very bright at night.
You're on the right track. Bright is going to be used as an adjective. Usually, metaphor, it's going to be comparing to another like noun.
That
Red
was from
balloon.
Mango Street.
That's a good one. That was really good. Do you like purple? All right. So basically, that was talking about comparing her to a balloon. So that is definitely a metaphor. Do y'all have a pun? Pun is gonna be harder. I got it.
I spilled my drink in one fluid motion.
What was that?
Say it again.
Say it again.
I think he's asking.
I spilled my drink in one fluid motion.
Oh, that's a good one.
One fluid motion.
Fluid.
I got it.
Here, I got it.
Oh, that's so
Hey,
funny.
don't worry, that was my charge.
You're gonna be coming up with puns all the time now. All right. So let's move on. Y'all feel like y'all understand any of that? Do y'all have any questions? Y'all understand that soliloquy is a long speech, basically when the person is alone on stage. And then an aside is when the character says something and the other characters can't hear it. It's basically talking to themselves. And that's that example I gave you. You'll probably read Hamlet, I'm not sure. But Hamlet talks to himself a lot. And then the sonnet, it's basically 14-line poems. I'm gonna erase this. So we're gonna have a brain break real quick. I have two examples up there. One is from a rap song and one is not. And I want y'all to discuss with your partner which one is the rap song and which one is not.
But that one sound like Shakespearean because how he's so wisdom and stuff like. You know
You're
how
on a good
Antigone,
right
like, you know how
track.
Antigone, how Priam always said like their long speeches where they have like puns and all.
Yeah,
But that one seemed like something Shakespeare said.
that's right. Yeah. Who says this one is the rap song?
No,
No, this is not the rap song. Is
It's
this the rap
that rap,
song?
that's the rap song.
This is the rap song?
Yeah,
All right, go to the next slide.
those there.
The first one is "You Must Love Me" by Sean Carter, so that's Jay-Z. And then this is also used by Shakespeare. I don't know if they have it in Shakespeare, but it's used in Julius Caesar. That's a quote from him. And then it's also used in "Numb Encore" by Jay-Z and Linkin Park. So that just goes to show you that even though "I Tamed My Soul, I Conquered" is used a lot in rap and everything, it came from Julius Caesar. So we like to make allusions to things back in history. So that's a good example of an allusion. All right, so this is going to give you a little bit of some background on Julius Caesar. So Julius Caesar was the play that William Shakespeare wrote. It's one of his first ones performed in the Globe Theater in 1599, and it follows themes of deceit and consequences of thirst for power and betrayal. Can y'all think of any time somebody betrayed you? Did somebody betray you ever? Yeah? Do you have an example you want to share? I had just a typical talking behind somebody's back. That could be betrayal. And then consequences of thirst for power. You can see that today. A lot of people in authority will get caught up in seeking power, and it can be their downfall. So it starts with Caesar coming back from war. He's actually coming through the streets, and the people are praising him, and they have a statue erected for him, or built for him. And people in the Senate, it starts with them looking at Caesar and being, this could be bad for us. He's going to be more powerful than anybody in history. And they start to talk amongst themselves, even though before Julius Caesar was triumphant, victorious in war, they were his friends. And now they're conspiring against him. They try to say it's the public, for the public opinion or for the good of the people, but they're actually being selfish. All right, so this gives you a little bit of history. I'm not going to go real in depth. Before Caesar, there was a group of rulers that were basically known as dictators. Does anybody remember a dictator from history? Hitler? That's a good example. And they basically ruled and did not let the people have any power. So that was not good. People wanted to revolt, and they ended up overthrowing the Tarquins, which was that dictator group of rulers, and a republic was formed. Does anybody think of any nations that are a republic today? Does that sound familiar? America's actually a republic. We have the president. What was that? Yeah. Yeah, because we, Dominican Republic, we own them, so it was like a protectorate almost. But basically they have a leader, then they have the Senate, which the leader elects from the people or from his advisors. And that's when Julius Caesar came into power. It was actually Julius Caesar, a guy named Pompey, and a guy named Crassus. Crassus ended up dying in war, and Pompey and Julius Caesar fought because Pompey thought that Julius Caesar had too much power. So before the play, Julius Caesar is actually fighting off the sons of Pompey, which he comes into. He is actually victorious, and then they end up calling Julius Caesar a dictator for life, which means he has more power even than God, is what they thought of it as. Can y'all think of an example other than Hitler? Creon. That's right, he was very powerful, and he was set on the law, and he became bigger than the law, honestly. And let's see, a good question for your C notes is, how is ancient Roman government similar to our government today? Like, we're a republic, and that also, we do have more people that are around the president that help him not take as much power, but they didn't have that back then. It is similar to the government in England, if you want to write that down, because It was a monarchy. Do y'all know what a monarchy is? Yeah, it's a government, but it has one person.
Like savagery.
Savagery?
Like mad.
Yeah, monarchy can be if there's it's one person ruling. It's actually a figurehead, so that means the person, basically has power, but somebody else is making the decisions. Y'all know, Britain, they have a monarchy. The Queen rules, and back then, in London, when Shakespeare was alive, Elizabeth I was the Queen of England, and a lot of people, she was, getting on the end of her life, and a lot of her advisors were conspiring against her to take power, as she didn't have an heir. An heir, which means it's not air as in you breathe air. It's an heir as the person, Elizabeth didn't have any sons or daughters to take over after her. So that became a problem, as also Julius Caesar, he had a lot of power, but he didn't have an heir. So these senators were trying to conspire to take power because they believed that Julius Caesar would not give up his power. Down, you'll have all the highlighted part. Okay, do y'all have any questions? Does that make sense? All right, so we'll go on. So this is gonna be an outline kind of the main people that the play is gonna focus on. So we've got Brutus. Are y'all familiar with Ohio State? Ohio State? Their mascot is the Brutus.
They gonna be trash.
I know.
They go back, like, they got one of the most championships. Really Alabama too.
Right. So Ohio State, they've got Brutus. He's what's the mascot name? It's like a tree nut or something.
Yeah, I think
It
it's
starts with a B. Buckeye. I could not think of that. So he's a Buckeye. You can remember Brutus that way. But Brutus was one of Caesar's closest friends, and he believes he needs to act against Caesar, or basically overthrow or take power after Caesar for the good of Rome and for the people, because Julius Caesar is one person handling all this power. And let's see, so we've got Casca. He hates the citizens. He feels like he's better than them, but he's jealous of the love that the people have for him, because they have erected statues, they praise Caesar. Do you know what the word orator means? O-R-A-T-O-R. That means a good speaker. Can y'all think of any good speakers today that are in government here in America or back in history? Martin Luther King. And how was he a good speaker?
He did not promote violence.
Right? But he was a man of the people. He basically was powerful because he gained the people's respect. Casca doesn't like that. So he wants to conspire with Brutus and then this guy named Cassius to overthrow him. Cassius is greedy and jealous, just like the rest of them, and he wants to take drastic measures to keep Caesar from winning any more power. And he also wants to take away power that he already has. All right. So, honestly, that reminds me of, have y'all seen Lion King?
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me a little bit of Scar, even though the Lion King is actually supposed to be a representation of Hamlet, which is Shakespeare's play. You can see something like greedy, jealous, these traits right here, these character traits in Scar, because he wants to take over for his brother, and have that power. Hitler was a good speaker, and he basically led the people by his voice. And they had no idea of what he was capable of until after the war, when the bad things started happening. When y'all already night, basically, the killing of the Jews, they had no idea because Hitler was a good speaker and he could manipulate people. Do y'all know what the word manipulate means?
Like,
Right. And this is kind of what Brutus and Cassius end up doing, is manipulating Caesar into thinking that everything is okay, and then they kill him. All right, if y'all want to go ahead and answer these essential questions, talk with a neighbor and discuss how Shakespeare contributed to theater and how Roman culture is used in Julius Caesar and how it's similar in your summary. And I want y'all to write like 3 sentences, kind of just, it doesn't have to be specific, just what do you think of how the time, how Julius Caesar coming to power, how that's similar to Britain with monarchy and one person controlling power, and how it's similar today. Like, how can you think of anybody today that is controlling power and is a good speaker? And Shakespeare, most of his words are used today. He came up with the word assassinate. A lot of his terms are used. And theater, basically, if you've been to a play, he came up with the format, and basically how play can like mock anything like happening in like the social circle or anything in history, like Greek mythology is used in Antigone.
I have a question. Isn't Shakespeare born in Britain?
Shakespeare wasn't born in Rome. That's right. He's got somebody stressed. This is unstressed. Stressed. How is Roman culture used to Julius Caesar?
I think, like, we're gonna have, like, well, in the mid classes, which is good,
And
both of them,
yeah, basically, Julius Caesar was named dictator for life, and you can see that they were a republic, which we have that government form today. We was a republic. We try to take the power off the leader, so that we can be more equal and the people they don't get mad, they feel like they represent it. Alright, so I think that's going to be it, other than the cahoots.